I'm going to tell you why the lawn mowing business is a terrible business. It's one of the worst businesses, and I'm going to tell you how you can fix it if you choose to be in it. So I had a friend message me a while back. He sent me a link to another individual's YouTube video, and he has a huge following. And this individual was ranking something like the 10 worst businesses or something like that. And he put lawn mowing in it. And the friend that was messaging me, I'm assuming, probably would have thought that I would disagree with the video because I've owned for a long time a business that has a lawn mowing component to it. But my response to him was, yeah, 100% agree. Lawn mowing is horrible business. So let me tell you why it's a horrible business. And there's a couple things you can take from this. One, these are the attributes that you want to consider that lead to a bad business. And so you want to avoid being in businesses of this type. Then I'm going to tell you how to fix the lawn mowing business so that it's a decent business, not great, but decent business. And what I'm going to describe are the attributes you look for, some of them, to make a great service business. If you're thinking about like, what home service business should I be in? Or what lines of business should I go into as I grow my business? So let's start with why the lawn mowing business sucks. All right. It's a commodity business. Everybody knows the price. So it's easy for people to price shop you. You want to be in a business that it's not easy to get price shopped. Everybody, there's the old saying, a guy in a truck. There's a million guys in a truck. The majority of that industry is an individual doing their own work with one or two or zero employees. Very hard to compete against them. They don't have to price very high to make a decent living for themselves. If they were working at a company before making 20 an hour and now they make 30 an hour, they're happier. So they can make 30 an hour. I can't run a company at 30 an hour. Cannot do it. I can't provide insurance, 401k, health, have an office team, do all the things that the client really wants. But, an individual in his truck who has a small number of clients, they can probably do right by their clients and they can charge way less, and they don't make a lot of money in life, but they're happier than they were when they were working for somebody else. Really hard to compete against them. Those guys drive down the price. Low barrier of entry. It's a business that's really easy to get into. You can start with really cheap equipment and upgrade. You can start with the truck you already got and kind of stay with the truck you've already got forever. Low barrier of entry, no licensing. I don't have to get certified in anything. I don't have to get licensed. Low barrier of entry, easy to get into, so you compete with every high school kid and every guy in a truck. Not very sophisticated competition. I'm not saying you suck. I'm not saying you're not sophisticated. I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just saying if you want to compare the lawn mowing business to the software industry, it's a different level of sophistication. It's a different level of knowledge. The software industry is highly funded by some of the smartest people with massive millions and millions, if not billions of dollars. Very sophisticated capital, very sophisticated operators. They have a tremendous amount at risk. They have to run their businesses based on numbers. They have to do lots of things. A guy in the lawn mowing business doesn't have to do any of those things. Less sophisticated. Doesn't mean they're bad people. Doesn't mean I'm a bad person. Doesn't mean anybody in the lawn mowing business is bad or dumb or any of that. I don't mean that by less sophisticated. I just mean you don't have millions of dollars at risk, so you don't have to do the things that somebody has millions of dollars at risk does. The best example I've got that comes to mind right now is you don't have to know every number of your business inside and out. Because if you don't in some of those industries, you will be crushed. You don't have to worry about that. You should worry about it, but you don't have to. Really hard to find labor. Mom and dad not telling their kids to start mowing lawns. Your kids, when they have kids, aren't going to tell their kids to go mow lawns. Nobody's telling their kids to go mow lawns. Everybody's trying not to mow lawns. Everybody's trying not to do roofing. The world's changing. And so labor's shrinking. It's never going to get better. Low transaction price. You do all this work to sell a client and you make $30 a week, $40 a week, $50 a week. There are other people that go out and sell jobs and make $20,000, $80,000, $100,000. Or they sell recurring work that pays them $2,000 a month. Just low transaction. It's overcomable. It's not a big deal. I have no problem with low transaction price. It's another barrier. And it makes it a little bit more difficult to build a great giant business. Lots of things can go wrong in mowing, predominantly around labor. And what happens? Bad reviews. When you have a great labor pool, And you can replace your people like that, and the labor's more reliable. And by labor, I simply mean human beings that are helping you do the work. Um, you know, less opportunity to screw things up, less opportunity to get bad reviews and drag down the name of your company. Easy switching cost. Tomorrow, I will have 9 door hangers on my door for a new mowing company. I won't have 9 door hangers on my door for HVAC companies or plumbing companies, but I will for lawn mowing. And probably lawn mowing represents the most marketed door hanger I mean, it's just like everybody does it. Everybody's mowing lawns. One reason is because, well, low barrier of entry. Another reason is because, well, it's not that hard. Now, I would like to think we do it at our company different and better than most. And there is actually training involved, and there is actually a little skill involved. I do believe that. I don't believe what most people believe, that there's no skill involved. But it's a lot easier to do than it is to go buy all the equipment and get licensed and start climbing trees and doing big takedowns and then grinding stumps. That's back to the low barrier thing. And also, because the client, back to the switching cost thing, because the client knows the price and there's going to be 9 door hangers on their door and there's an abundance of people doing the service, it's easy for them to find somebody like that to replace you on a whim whenever they're frustrated about anything. Everything I just described is why the lawn mowing business sucks. And it's why, and those are attributes that you really don't want in the ideal business. So now let's talk about how you fix it. So we for years had a phenomenal lawn mowing business for years. And then over time, it has deteriorated in terms of margins, and it's directly correlated to labor, the difficulty of finding people. And so the margins have declined. But we still have a good business. So for example, a lot of people would say, oh, you shouldn't be in the mowing business. You can't make any money. Or they would say, well, you're only in the mowing business because it's a loss leader to get other services. I think that is a terrible idea, because mowing can take up a huge amount of labor. It can end up being a huge percentage of your overall revenue inside of a business. And if that's a loss leader, you have a crappy business model and you have horrible margins. The only reason to be in mowing, in my opinion, is because you can make it a profit center. It may be a lower margin profit center than, say, if you're a lawn care company, then you have the opportunity for fertilization, weed control, arbor, tree, irrigate, or arbor and tree are the same, pest, irrigation. There's all mulch. There's all these other lines of business that will carry higher margin, both gross margin and net. And so, but it doesn't mean that your mowing business should be negative or break even. It should still carry a decent margin, in my opinion, or it's going to drag down your whole business. So how do you build a mowing business, in my opinion? It's what we did way back and what we're still doing today, where it actually contributes good margin to the business. It's just probably the lowest margin thing we do now. It used to not be that way. It used to be really strong margin. Okay, the ways. Get very specific on one type of client. And really the client is more about, it could be, from a client standpoint, it could be one type of client in that this is the value of the home and the type of income we need. But more than that, it tends to be more about the property when I say clients. So in our case, we tried all the different properties. We decided the best for us was really a gross lot square footage of under, I don't know what it is we do now, but back in the day, it was like under 10,000 gross lot square feet. I think it creeped up to 14,000. I have no idea what we do today, but it's still under that. So it'd be like, so when I say gross lot, I'm talking the house takes up some square footage, concrete takes up, flower beds take up, pool takes up, pool decking takes up. They take out of that 10,000 square feet. And so I'm not talking net turf square feet. I'm talking gross lot square feet. We kind of found 14, let's call it 14 and under, and really the sweet spot was 10 and under. I remember back in the day when I was involved in the business, the data said 7,000 to 7,999 square feet. That was the ideal client. Okay, so you got to get really clear on where can you still make the margin. And you got to know it. And we knew it by square footage. And we still know it by square footage today. And that's because you're thinking about dollar per man hour. Dollar per man hour, how much you make, how much a guy or gal in the field makes per man hour, that drives gross margin. It drives net profit, but I don't want to get in the weeds on that right now. So you got to know how your dollar per man hour correlates to the size of the property. Back to my example, a property that is 7,000 to 8,000 gross lot square feet will deliver a certain per man hour rate. Let's just make up a number and say it makes $62 per man hour. You might find that when you're doing 11,000, 12,000 square feet, you're making $51 a man hour, which is better. 62, 51, not as good. You want to do more of the 62 stuff. It's that kind of thinking. Okay, so that's one kind of your cost. Like when you get to the property, how much money do we make per man hour to produce the work? So from the minute we pull up, turn off the ignition, get out, do the work, get back in the truck, turn on the ignition, and that included filling out job notes or filling out whatever you got to fill out in your CRM, your software system. Like from stop the truck, start the truck, that's production time. That's the per man hour that I was just describing. There's a whole nother cost structure, and that's your non-billable time. Non-billable time is magical. When you can drive down non-billable time, it's like all money straight to the bottom line. It's incredible. Well, that's built through density. Density means you keep every single location very close together. Like we park the truck, we mow this lawn, we mow that lawn, we mow that lawn. We had no drive time. That drive time, that's the non-billable stuff. I don't get paid when I'm sending 3 guys 10 minutes down the street to mow another lawn. That 10 minutes, which times 3, 30 minutes, if I'm paying on average $18 a man hour, or let's go with $20 a man hour, I just lost $10. $10 multiple times a day, magnified by 10 crews, 20 crews, 100 crews. That becomes some real money. When you save that money all goes straight to profit. Density is where it's at. Like the whole game is density. Shrink the market you serve. Get really tight. Don't run those trucks from property to property or very far. You save labor, you save fuel, you save wear and tear on the truck. Like it really adds up. A lot we could talk about there, but density, that's an attribute for a good business. You're not moving your trucks as much. You're not paying a lot of wasted time. Now, there are other trades that will bill for the time to get to your place. So you call, there's like a stop charge. There's a bill, they bill to come to your place. Okay, well, they've solved for that problem, but you don't see that in mowing. And mowing doesn't necessarily factor that in. So you got to play the game of density. How are you getting paid? Like if it's a lower margin business and you're floating money for 30 days or 60 days, so meaning you do the work, you pay all your employees, you pay your gas, you pay all your expenses, and then you're going to get paid back from the client for all that 30 days from now, 60 days from now, that's terrible in a lower margin business. You need to get paid immediately. That's the idea of charging the credit card as soon as you do the work. I produce the work, I get the money from the client via credit card, and I pay my employee. Like the timeline is I do the work, I have no expense. I'll make payroll this Friday or next Friday, but I'll pay out the fuel on my credit card, but I'll do all that after I already got paid to do the work. There is a cost to floating money, meaning that you do the work and you wait to get paid. There's a cost. You're going to use a line of credit, you're going to use credit cards, or you're going to have less money in your bank account, which doesn't give you the money to go hire Mary to help you in the office or the next fella to help you out in the field. So you got to get paid really fast. That's another way you fix this problem. In our case, we found that using small equipment, targeting small properties with small equipment, brought our asset cost way down. So a lot of our competitors were doing ride-on equipment. They're doing big riders. Those things are costing, I don't know what they cost back in the day, but let's call it 10 grand, 8 grand. We spent $1,000. And really the production time was it was hardly any difference. Like, sure, they produced the work a couple minutes faster than us, but now we're in a smaller truck. The truck had a bed on it, or it's a box. The equipment was, I could put all the equipment on the truck for $5,000 with a backup mower, weed eater, line trimmer, blower, everything. My competition's filling up a truck for 15 to 20 grand. I mean, we just keep winning. And so how do you bring down your asset cost, your capital investment, your capital expense to grow this business? H-2B visa. It's kind of critical to the mowing business it's a seasonal business. So if you don't use H-2B visa and you can't, not that all your team is H-2, but if you're not using H-2B visa, if I'm using it and you're not, let's talk about what that looks like. So I bring the team members, awesome team members, great human beings, like salt of the earth people, the kind of people you want to build a company around. And they come back every year and you just they're the best. They're awesome individuals. Okay. Are you recruiting, finding super awesome, incredible individuals? That's advantage number one to me, because that's been our experience. Number two, they go off our payroll for 9 months of the year. What do? Do you carry them on payroll, or do you lay them off and the government pays them for 3 months on unemployment and your unemployment tax goes up? Advantage number two to me, I use H-2B visa for a number, not all, but quite a few of my people, so it brings down my payroll. That's how I can keep my prices down. If you're not doing that and playing the same game, there goes your profit. You're making really good profit, and then you eat it all in the winter where you're carrying people. That's another problem. So that's one way to solve it. You get really good at using mowing as a gateway service. Okay? By gateway service, here's the analogy. I'll do another video on this someday. The analogy is I'm trying to figure out what's the easiest way for me to sell more stuff or get new clients. Let's do that. What's the easiest way for me to get more clients? Well, I got all these things I can sell them. I can sell them mowing, I can sell them irrigation, I can sell them pest control. Let's talk about those three. What's the problem with pest control? Well, a lot of people don't buy pest control. Of those three services, what's the highest? Who will buy? Of those three services, mowing is by far bought. Let's do better. You got 50 homes on the street. You're picturing the 50 homes. And if you were to say, of the 50 homes, how many will buy mowing? Maybe in your market, 50% will buy mowing, so 25. How many will buy pest control? Maybe a third will buy pest control. Maybe 20% will buy pest control. How many are going to buy irrigation? I don't know. Quite a few, but who knows when they're going to buy it, because you have no idea when their stuff's going to break. Okay, so those are three very different selling scenarios. So of the three scenarios I just gave you, what's the easiest to sell? Mowing. Like if you just keep showing up with door hangers over and over and over again, mowing is the one most likely to get a hit where somebody's got pain. They're like, oh yeah, my lawn company didn't show up today. My lawn company didn't close the gate for the third time. Whatever the scenario is, I'm buying. But man, it's really hard to show up with a door hanger and happen to be there. And I just use door hangers. It could be postcards. It could be whatever. Hard to show up on the day when the sprinkler head popped off and it's spraying water. Timing gets really tough there. Pest control, timing gets kind of tough to show up when they have pain. Pest control people don't get as mad at their pest control company as they do their mowing company. So the odds you show up when they're upset and ready to fire the pest control, lower probability. Also, you're competing against a bazillion door knockers. And if you're not door knocking as well, that's just tougher. So mowing is the easiest thing to sell. So it's called a gateway. Gateway is gateway drug. What's that little thing I could give somebody, gets them addicted, and they come back for more and more and more? From a drug standpoint, same concept. Gateway is what's the thing I could sell the client? The easiest thing I could possibly sell the client. Once I make them a client, then I could sell them more and more and more stuff. So the easiest gateway service of all home services, I believe, is actually mowing. And so that's why some people say, well, then it doesn't matter if it's a loss leader. It doesn't matter if we don't make any money on, because it opens the door to make a person a client, and then we sell them all the other high margin stuff. I disagree with that philosophy. I'm okay with it being a lower margin service, but not a loss leader and not a stupid low margin service. You've got to still make money on it. So that's the concept of gateway. That is the beauty of lawn mowing. Now, let me finish the thought on this. By using lawn mowing as a gateway, even though it's not a great service, to help you sell all the other services, makes it a very, very valuable service, because I think I've been clear on this, but it's way easier to get the client by selling them mowing than it is to get the client by selling them pest control. Way easier. And so that is, a check mark for why mowing is still not a bad business. You just got to figure out how to fix everything around it so that it's a good business. The other thing you got to do to make mowing a good business is constantly recruit, because there's more turnover in mowing than there is in, say, fertilization, weed control, or in pest control, or in arbor care, or in irrigation. There's still a lot of turnover in those spaces because it's very competitive. Mowing's the worst. And so you've got to constantly be recruiting. If you're not constantly recruiting, the business is miserable because you're always shorthanded. You can't grow the business, or you always live in fear of people not showing up. Because people in the mowing business are hard to find, meaning it's really hard to find great people, you got to take everything off their plate. The only thing they do when you hire them is they mow. That's it. They only mow. They don't fill up their trucks. They don't mix their fuel, their 2-cycle oil and fuel. They don't change their blades. They don't sharpen their blades. They don't clean their equipment. They don't do any of that stuff. I can find somebody to do that. I can find a high school kid to do that. But I can't find lots of really awesome people to mow lawns. So the only thing when I find them, I let them do is mow lawns. Somebody else can do everything else because I can find those people. Another one that worked for us, sell all your equipment all the time. What's the worst thing? It's running old equipment and old trucks. What's your biggest line item? Why is it the worst thing? Because your biggest line item on your profit and loss statement, if you look at where you spend your money, your biggest line item is your labor. Number one. So the fastest place you're going to lose money is by having leaks in your business where you're wasting labor. How do you waste labor? Truck breaks down, 3 guys, 2 guys, whatever, sitting in a truck waiting for you to come help them. Mower breaks down, line trimmer breaks down, blower breaks down, crew sitting there waiting till you bring them one so they can keep going. And all the while you're paying 3 individuals money to do nothing. It's that non-billable stuff. Kills profits, destroys them. So how do you solve that? Well, one way to solve it is like have the best equipment and the best maintained trucks all the time. It's like, ooh, I don't know if I can afford that. Oh yeah, you can afford that because it'll totally offset what you're going to spend in labor. You don't realize you're wasting the money in labor, but you are. And so you can, in our case, we would buy new mowers every year. So we buy mowers, we keep them maintained, we sell them all at the end of the year, and then we buy all new ones. Well, why would you do that? Because we want to be max productive all the time. We're trying to bring down our costs. It's cheaper in the long run to do that for a whole ton of reasons, but the biggest being labor. And then if you're going to be in the mowing business, you got to run a low overhead business. If you're going to go have a big, awesome, incredibly cool office space, that business doesn't particularly doesn't work because it's a lower margin business. And so you've got to be really careful. Like some of the other trades where they have really strong billing rates and they have lower COGS, they have higher gross margin, they can be less efficient. They can make more mistakes. They can have a cooler office. They can do lots of things you can't do because you decided to be in the mowing business. But if you're really careful, really prudent, run a really strict operation, you too can actually have good margins in the mowing business. So in summary, I told you why the mowing business sucks, but I also told you how you fix it. And if you think about the things I just said in terms of how you fix it, those are if you decide like, hey, I'd like to get into home services, what should I be in? Or you're like, I want to expand into other lines of business. I want to expand the business I have into new services. Those are the attributes you're thinking about that make for a good business. So you're in that first list I gave you is like, is it a commodity business? If it is, okay, not a great business. Is it hard to find labor? Not a great business. Like you're going through my list and that's how you identify if it's a good business to get into. I hope that helps.